Fitness YouTube doesn't evolve, it revolves. Every few years we enter a new era where someone claims to have cracked the code. But really, all we're doing is walking through the same revolving door, just with a different face on the other side. And if you're not careful, you'll spend years chasing advice that leads nowhere. Once upon a time, there was Chang, the six-pack king of YouTube. Every video was thumbnails of shredded abs and promises of being able to achieve it in just a few weeks. We laugh at it now, but a lot of people fell for this advice, and that is our first trap. Correlation equaling causation. He's jacked, he's got great abs, well he's got a wee bit of a 4-pack, but anyway I digress. That guy's jacked, so everything he says must be true, right? I mean, surely he followed this advice to get where he is now. Then came the YouTube powerlifting renaissance. You had guys like Candido, Mark Bell, Alan Thrall, all these guys that were really advocating for strength. Every gym rat started to, do go mad diets and chase their Wilk scores and really just kind of abandon any sense of aesthetics. These guys mentioned in particular may not have really advocated for this, but it definitely opened the door to the idea of barbell minimalism. And this idea that you could, if you wanted bigger triceps, you can just chase a bigger bench. If you want to grow your quads specifically, you can just squat more. And your calves, abandon them. A kind of permissive, subversive idea began to manifest. And this was that naturals don't really need to train hard. See, doing all your tricep extension and all your fluff and pump, that's for the enhanced guys. If you're natural, you don't really need to train that hard, and you should only focus on the compound movements. Some guys like me stayed small to kind of try and chase a Wilk score. Other guys took the Go Mad diet a little bit too far, and they got stronger. They got a lot fatter. Minimalism became gospel. 1 barbell, 1 lift, 3 repetitions. That was the way, and it gave rise to what natural hypertrophy has coined the spider physique. But very quickly, the pendulum began to swing the other way, and that was by putting the science back in strength. If you want to look like an athlete, you got to train like an athlete. Now, the YouTube fitness community wanted science, and science they did not get. What we got was pseudo-science dressed up in a lab coat. We had Jeff Cavalier coming up with a new exercise every week, putting really good, well-established lifts in the iron graveyard. A lot of people fell for that, and I know I did. I was a big Athlete X fanboy. But eventually, he got ousted by some people that at first appeared a lot better. And in this time, we started to see science explained in every single thumbnail. And at first, the advice was really good. They were taking kind of evidence-based training that had been tried and true, and were just kind of explaining a lot of the reasons behind it, maybe small adjustments that you could make scientifically, based on studies, on how you could get the most out of a given lift. But then, if you know anything about history and the Islamic caliphates, you will know about the rise of decadence. There were really only so many studies out there, and a lot of them relied on kind of flawed mechanisms. For instance, testing EMG activation as some sort of measure of how much gains you get from something. Overemphasizing eccentrics. Becoming too worried about stimulus to fatigue ratios rather than getting stronger over time. And it became a lot more popular, and I guess a lot more kind of financially viable. They began to take a page out of their predecessor, Jeff Cavalier's book, and start to really focus on not just the minutiae, but creating bizarre exercises that have never really been used before because they, in theory, work the best. They get the most EMG activation. Biomechanically, the stretch is emphasized. All this did was begin to create paralysis by analysis, by people focusing too much on range of motion and not getting stronger. You had all these guys that were absolute technique cyborgs and using these crazy new lifts, but were wondering why they couldn't bench more than one plate. Lifting became more of a spreadsheet that needed to be balanced and researched and sourced, rather than a process based on effort over time. And then, when YouTube fitness needed them most, once again, the noble Matties appeared. Now, these guys have been on the scene for a long time. They were even actually quite instrumental in the ousting of Jeff Cavalier in Athlean-X, and it was a glorious moment for YouTube fitness. Effort had re-entered the discussion. People began to think about, what did people used to do and how can we apply that today? What works and what doesn't? A lot of these kind of made up goofy movements got clowned on, and a lot of the kind of biomechanics stuff, stretch mediated hypertrophy, all get kind of knocked to the wayside. It was the fitness version of a complete moral reset. We started to go right back to the very first bits of advice. People began to focus on effort as the primary driving factor. Gone were goofy exercises or crazy implications of the past, such as, natties don't need to train that hard, or you don't need to train your arms for bigger arms, you need to train your bench press. A new golden age was on the horizon. Or so it seemed. Because there's nothing that YouTube fitness likes more than absolutism. And a dark force has risen once again. And that is the mechanical tension monks. These guys really focus on 48 reps, maximising the effective rep model. It's the last 5 reps of a set that count to hypertrophy. Everything else is useless. I don't really understand where these guys have come from. I think a lot of them have basically been the guys that kept their ears closed during all the fads. And the thing is, with the whole 48 and maximising mechanical tension and, really chasing effective reps, that stuff does work, but again, it is an example of correlation and not equaling causation. These guys got big because they didn't listen to any of the new stuff. They stuck with effort-based training, and therefore they got good results. I've had debates with some of these guys online, and they've been saying stuff about how, why should I do anything more than 5 reps? Because it's going to make you more fatigued, you're going to be out of breath, you're going to get that lactic burn, and you're not really going to be able to push to real failure like you can with 5 reps, for instance. And to that I say, take a lateral raise. If you can't do a lateral raise for 10 reps to your maximum efficiency because it's too much of a lactic burn or it's too fatiguing on the cardio, that is absolutely a skill issue on your part. You should always be really careful of someone that just hits you with an absolute. There is always a context to be using higher reps and lower reps, but this kind of nuance has been chucked out, and I really feel like this idea seems to really connect to gymflation and kind of the idea that all the science guys were small, so these guys were the guys that didn't listen to the science guys, so we need to listen to these guys because they're so big and they say the opposite of those guys. It all really seems like a rebranding and recycling of some of Mike Mensor's and Mark Ripeto's ideas around hypertrophy. We went from nonsense to wisdom to nonsense wrapped up in something new. Each wave rises like a dynasty. It gains followers, builds hype, claims the truth, then crumbles under the weight of its own contradictions. The mandate of heaven is lost, and a new emperor takes the throne. The cycle continues. The problem isn't that we're missing the answer. The problem is that we keep thinking there is one. So how do you escape the revolving door of YouTube fitness? Stop chasing magic. Stop chasing some new system. You need to stop chasing a new ideology every time progress stalls and one appears. You need to look at what works and what has historically worked and stick to it. And stick to it longer than some new 12-week trend or influencer that's got all the hype right now. It's not novel, it's not trendy, but with a lot of time, this is what I realise works. A lot of people could say, who the hell are you? Who are you to critique these people? And they would be right to say so. You know, every single one of these guys that I've mentioned on this list is bigger than me, is stronger than me, and is wildly more successful than me. And because of gymflation, I only look like I've been lifting for 3 months. But to that, I say, I'm the consumer. I'm the person that has been watching these videos. I'm the person that fell for every single fad, that chased Wilk score at all cost, that never tried to put on a tiny bit of mass, because if you want to look like an athlete, you got to train like an athlete, which is somehow, according to Jeff Cavalier, extremely lean. I spun my wheels looking for the next answer, for the next trend that was going to get me that little bit further. You know, the next new exercise that had been invented, the new training fad that had just come out. And because of this, I stalled a lot of my progress. And a lot of these people, some of them I really respect, and some of them were just, you know, influencers that get excited by an idea and took it too far. And other ones are charlatans. But for instance, we've got Jeff Cavalier, and he was popular on YouTube Fitness for years, and people that knew better endorsed him. People were more worried about the paycheck, the views, and not upsetting anyone than they were the truth. And because of that, you know, beginners like myself got caught in waves that kept them beginners for a lot longer than they needed to be. If we had all just stuck to the tried and true methods and disregarded the noise, I know myself, I would have been a lot better off. Because the thing is the truth doesn't change. What we know and what we've known for so long doesn't change. It's just the marketing around it. So don't fall for the newest fad, don't fall for the newest advertising, because that's what it is. There's a lot of people on here that want to make money out of you. Train harder than last time, stay consistent, and make sure that you're recovered. Please do let me know if there was anything that you agreed with, that you disagreed with, if there was an era in the YouTube fitness epoch that you think that I missed. Am I a small dial that doesn't know what he's talking about? Or did you really enjoy this video? And if you did enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe so you can stay up to videos that randomly change lighting. Click the bell notification so you get notified every single time we post one.